What's good, everyone? It's your boy Jeff, and this is another episode of The Undercard. I know it's been a hot minute. It's been probably 2 to 3 months since I did one of these. I've been extremely busy trying to get a few things off the ground in my own personal life. Been trying to get my HVAC company up and running, but now that that has settled, it's time to focus on some of my other passions, and it's time to get back into the undercard. Today, we're going to be talking about the rematch between Anthony Joshua versus Andy Ruiz. But before we get into that, we're going to talk about a little bit of the undercard and then work our way all the way up to the main event. All right, so the first fight of the night, the first fight that I actually was able to watch on Danzin was against Masvidal versus Tom Little. I didn't know much about Tom Little, but apparently this Masvidal, he has got a pretty good amateur pedigree, and it really showed in his fighting style. He made quick work of his opponent, Tom. He was very smart, fighting behind the jab. He looks like a very good up-and-coming prospect for the heavyweight division. Will Masvidal contend for a title? Most likely not, but the heavyweights division still needs to have like these top 10 journeymen. There's not a lot of high-level top heavyweight fighters right now in the world. After the top 5, it kind of peters off a little bit, right? So it's good to see guys like this come up to the ranks. He, like I said, he's not no slouch, but he's a little bit on the older side. He just turned, this is only his second pro fight. He just turned pro at the age of 32. And, unfortunately, it's kind of like one of those father time things, right? So, I mean, if he does want to proceed further and contend for world titles, then he's going to have to get fast-tracked a little bit. And he's going to have to continue to keep producing top results like this. He finished Little with a cross to the head, and the referee put a stop to it in round 2, and that was it, folks. Little just looked to be kind of out of shape, outclassed, and just really couldn't hang in there. So the next fight on the Danzin card in Abu Dhabi was Eric Molina versus Philip Hargich. Molina has contended twice for 2 championship belts. I believe he fought against Wilder, and I believe he fought against Joshua, lost to both of them. Don't quote me on that. I do know for sure he lost to Wilder, but I forget who was the other one he lost to. I'm pretty sure it's Joshua. Might have been Fury. I'm not entirely too sure. We'll have to double check that. But this was another heavyweight bout. And Molina, I was a little bit surprised. He didn't look as sharp, for somebody who has contended for titles before. I was kind of expecting a better show from him. He looked a little bit gassy and out of shape. And the way this fight got off to a start, it looked like Hrgović was just a bigger, stronger fighter. Hrgović was in better shape. Hrgović had the better pedigree. He's a very tough Croatian. He fought very tall. He fought very long, right? He was setting up shots from behind the jab, and working the body. He's a very intelligent fighter, and Hrgović has definitely shown why he's going to be a wrecking force in this heavyweight division soon. I think he is going to be competing for a world title here within the next 2 years. That's so long as he doesn't get stopped. But showed a very good game. He was able to drop Molina a couple of times. He dropped him in the first from a hook to the body. Devastating. Like I said, this guy definitely mixes it up well. And he's not just headhunting, right? He's got a very good pedigree, and It'll be interesting to see him fight against, like top talent. You know what I mean? I like to go and see him fight against a guy like a Dylan White, who also fought on this card as well. Um, there was a little bit of controversy in this. I think the first time that he had dropped them, or sorry, not the first time he had dropped him, but the second time that they had dropped him. Oh no, sorry, that's right. Actually, in the first though, Eric Molina kept on complaining that he was getting punched to the back of the head. But if you go back and watch the fight, you see that Molina a couple of times he kept putting his head down, right? And like anytime he would put it down and just keep his head down. Now in the amateur when you're fighting as an amateur, they try and they'll deduct a point from you from keeping your head down, right? Because you're not really presenting a target and you're putting yourself in a bad position to get smashed in the back of the head, right? Like, I mean, Hargovic has to swing at something, right? And if you keep putting yourself in a bad position, that's kind of like on your own fault, right? Like Hargovic was doing what he was supposed to do. Again, in the third round, there was like more controversy again, right? And I know that Hargovic dropped him with another body shot, put him down, right? And he just couldn't recover from that. But like I said, you just can't be putting your head down and presenting. You got to have hands up and bob and weave, right? A little bit of a peekaboo style. That head's got to come back up, right? Leaving your head back down in position like that, you're going to allow punches to the back of the head, the back of the ear, right? And it's going to get ugly quick. And it sure did. But anyways, excited to see Hargovic move on to stiffer competition. Maybe I'd like to see Hargovic take on Masvidal, right? You know what I mean? Just to see how Masvidal can handle the competition. You know what I mean? A step up in the competition. See exactly where these guys are. Now, because this card was littered with a ton of heavyweights, there was a couple of catch fights that kind of came in between, right? Some filler fights just to, fill up the time on the pay-per-view, try and give everybody their money's worth, right? And let me tell you, they didn't disappoint with this young kid from England. His name is Holby Price, and he fought against, I forget the first name, but Mohammed. These guys were they were flyweights. They were electric. I believe they were fighting at the 155 pounds. Could have been a little bit lighter. Anyways, this Holby Price, super impressive. This kid has got quite the boxing pedigree. A little bit about him. He forego his he forgo his dreams to go to not his dreams. He just skipped out on going the whole boxing into the Olympic route, and he's choosing to become a professional, at a young age, right? He just turned professional not too long ago. I think this is only his second fight, and let me tell you, like, I think he's made the right decision to skip out on the Olympics. I mean, the Olympics is just a bunch of amateurs anyways. When you've got a pedigree like this kid does, he's ready for greater things. You know what I mean? I think he would just be wasting his talents in the amateur levels anyways. Some things of note that I noticed right away is that this kid just doesn't sit there in the pocket, right? He comes in, he's out, right? He fights very long. He was the taller of the two fighters, and just to show some ring generalship, right? He actually bent his knees down a little bit so that he could still fight long with his reach, right? A lot of taller fighters, they get into these bad habits where they still fight tall, you know what I mean? And it's one thing to fight tall, and it's one thing to fight long, and it's one thing to fight tall. There's almost like two different things, right? The shitty thing when you're taller and you're fighting against somebody smaller is you're punching down. And when you punch down, your punches don't have the same power as it would as if you were punching straight on, right? Or even punching up, right? So what he did was bent the knees, dropped his torso down a little bit, right, and was able to fire off shots, right? It just shows you how smart the kid is at such a young age. Very impressive, right? He was like a two-time amateur champion, right? Can't speak enough of good things about this Holby kid. You know, he does he fights the classic British way. You know what I mean? That stick and move, pop him, and it did him great. You know, very exciting fighter, and I can't wait to see more of this kid. Also, he won that fight in the third round. It was a stoppage. He just was peppering this Muhammad kid, and Muhammad was still able to fight. However, he was a little bit disappointed with the quick stoppage, but with the recent tragic events that we've had in boxing recently, I think we've had three fighters die in the past like 3 months, right? So it's quite understandable that the referee came in and stopped that fight. You were just outclassed. You were taking a beating, right? And we got to save the brains of these fighters. And kudos to the referee. He did the smart thing, and he stopped that man from taking any more damage. Probably prolonged his career and will prolong his quality of life. So good props to the ref there, and I'm not mad that it got stopped early. Well, we're going to go from flyweights back into the heavyweight division. This one was Dylan White versus Maurice Vash. Vash looks like a big fucking Viking. I don't know exactly how tall he was, but he looked like he was 6'10". He was fighting another big man, England's own Dylan White, another dude that's like 6'5", giant of a man. Dylan White, I don't know for yous that know, but he just recently got cleared of a drug charge from I think USADA or something like that. I'm not sure exactly what the testing institute is that covers that governing body of boxing, but he just recently got cleared. He got reinstated back as the heavyweight number 5 in the world. So he's pumped about that. He's been off for about like 6 months, and he was just looking to really be active. There was an opportunity for him to come into this fight as a replacement. I forget exactly who Vosh was supposed to fight earlier on, but his opponent dropped out last minute type of deal thing. And White was available, wanted to get in here and do it. But, at the start of this fight, I ain't going to lie, both these dudes came in like, and you just saw their bodies and you're just like, ooh, this is going to be an ugly fight. I mean, they both came in so extremely out of shape, so soft, and I mean, I was little bit apprehensive about watching this fight, but turns out it was actually pretty good. There was a lot of back and forth. Vosh being the guy that everybody thought that Dylan was just going to steamroll this Vosh, and it went back and forth, to be honest. Dylan came out and was working the body a little bit, and started headhunting. Vosh was also doing the same, right? Kind of headhunting, but he was focusing more on the body, right? Trying to slow Dylan down. There was a couple exchanges there where they've got like the better of each other. Nobody dropped each other, which was crazy. Though Dylan, the way this fight ended was nuts. Because like what I remember clearly from this fight was that like it was only a 10-round fight, right? Because like I said, both these guys came in extremely out of shape, right? And if it went to 12, probably this fight would have gone to... Actually, I don't know who this fight would have gone to, just because the way that this ended was just so crazy. Literally, like in the 8th round, Vosh just was starting to get the better of him. He was really starting to tee off on him in the 7th, right? And then in the 8th, he really was putting damage to him. And at the end of the 8th round, it looked like the ropes were holding Dylan up a little bit. And he took a beating, and then once the bell rang, even had his hands on the ropes to walk back to his corner. He just looked like he was done for, and sure enough, in the 10th, Vosh came out ready to swing and bang, and boom, boom, boom. He tried to fucking push the pace, and Dylan just looked like he was out of it. And then the last 30 seconds, oh my God, it just like he awoke and he almost killed Vosh. It was impressive. You can definitely tell that that Dylan White definitely has the better boxing pedigree. He was putting better combinations together. He was working, the head and the body. It'd be interesting to see him, with a proper camp to see exactly, when he's in better shape, right? Because, like I said, they both kind of gassed out. And in my opinion, I think Dylan probably would have won this fight had he had a proper training camp. But it's good to see that his charge has been cleared and that he's been reinstated and that we've got another exciting heavyweight into the whole mix here. When it comes to those drug tests, like the drug tests are so crazy right now, and they're so good right now that they can get down to like particles, right? And that's what they kind of detected. The same thing happened with John Jones too. It just turns out that their drug tests are so good that if there's traces, small little traces, USADA will be able to pick it up. All these drug tests out here, they will be able to pick that stuff up, right? So it's crazy. But it's good to see that, these governing bodies are able to say, hey, listen, we fucked up. We need to make things right, Now, they can't go back and make things right from all the way back in the past, because I'm pretty sure there were some of those, events like this that have happened in the past, right? But it is what it is. We got to move on with the sport, unfortunately. So, like I had mentioned, this card was full of heavyweights. The next fight was against Michael Hunter. He's actually a cruiserweight champion that has moved up to heavyweight. Now, usually there's always, like a little bit of a cause for concern because usually when lighter guys move up divisions, they usually don't have that power, right? Because they just kind of balloon themselves up, and they don't slowly get themselves to a proper heavyweight physique, right? If you can think of somebody that moved up, someone that reminds me of someone who did it right was Evander Holyfield. Holyfield was a cruiserweight that moved up and became a heavyweight, and as he moved up, he kept his strength, he kept his speed, right? And he was just a very, very phenomenal athlete, right? Holyfield was probably one of the most athletic heavyweight champions we've ever had. And, it's funny because Evander Holyfield doesn't get much love, right? Everybody remembers that he got his ear bit off, but, people forget he's the 4-time heavyweight champion. You know what I mean? That's a feat that has not been done before. But anyways, enough about Holyfield. I love my Holyfield, but we'll get back to this fight. Anyways, Michael Hunter, like I said, he's moving up. I can't say that I blame him because let's be honest, nobody gives a fuck about the cruiserweights. If you're not a heavyweight, that's where the money's at, right? That's where all the discussion is, right? Nobody really gives a shit about the lighter divisions, and unfortunately, I think it's very unfortunate that there's not enough attention because, like I said, when you see some of these guys moving up, a lot of these guys, they just don't have that body that looks good, right? And Michael Hunter just looked like he had a lot of extra weight kicking around. You know what I mean? He looked soft in the midsection. But you can tell the dude's got an amazing boxing pedigree. And he was in tough against Alexander Petrovic, sorry. These names I butcher all the time. Anyways, Alexander versus Michael, he was in tough. And I remember Michael, he came out and he almost dropped Alexander in the first round. You know what I mean? He really came out and put a pace, which was a smart strategy because Michael's still a young guy. Petrovic's pushing like 40. I think he'll be like 40 within like the next month, or he just turned 40, right? So like he's on the twilight of his career. But I kid you not, the dude is fucking tough as fuck. Doesn't look like he's 40. He's in great shape. And this went the distance, and it ended up being a draw, which I was fine with. Michael came out guns blazing. Like I says, he almost dropped Alexander, which was good because like as a younger fighter, you need to come out there and not show respect to the older fighter, right? You need to make the older, wiser fighter respect the younger fighter. I mean, like youth is on your side, right? So you gotta show that you've got that bigger gas tank, right? That you can push the pace, right? You know, you should never give the old guy room to breathe, right? You always need to keep smothering him, even if it's just a constant jab in his face, right? You know what I mean? You don't need to be landing big shots. You just need to keep the older guy moving, right? He's going to gas out. And unfortunately, Michael, for whatever reason, he got away from his game plan as this fight got longer and longer. Michael won the first round, but going to the sixth, it was all Petrovic. Petrovic won the next 5 rounds easily, right? It seemed like Petrovic started to get stronger and stronger and stronger. For whatever reason, Michael was striking the body, and he had great success going to the body, but as soon as he heard him, he just started headhunting. And you know what? It was a very foolish strategy. I mean, for a guy that is moving up a division, I mean, he's relatively young, but not really, you know what I mean? Like, you're still, like, 31, you know, and, like, he's been a pro for a bit. But to make splashes and waves, right, you really need to dominate over the other big names in the ring, you know? And he was unable to close that. He was unable to do that, and I believe that the win was there for him to take, and it ended up being a draw. I don't understand if maybe it was his corner not coaching him properly, but it seemed that he would hurt Petrovic to the body, and Petrovic would be like in serious trouble. But instead of like continuing to go and attack that body, he kept headhunting, and let's be honest, a lot of these heavyweights, they can take a punch. Maybe not Joshua, but most of these heavyweights, they can take a punch. And Petrovic showed that, like, he's got a granite fucking chin on him. Granite. That dude's chin is fucking titanium, right? He just fucking could eat shots for days. But, you know, in boxing, they say finish to the body, right? And Hunter just, for whatever reason, just did not do that. It was greatly disappointing, you know. And like I says, I think he kind of hurt his progress with this draw. You know what I mean? It was still an entertaining fight. I'm looking forward to seeing the next time he comes out there. But hopefully he can fight a smarter fight next time. Also, I think this also ended up being a draw because Petrovic's still a half decent heavyweight, so they didn't want to punish him really for, you know what I mean, a fight that was kind of meh, you know. It was, like I said, a very 50-50 fight. Both guys did stun each other a couple of times. You know, Petrovic had Hunter hurt numerous times. You know, he's just, like I says, I think Petrovic too was a little bit gassed out, you know, and was unable to do anything with it. But yeah, all in all, pretty good fight. It was an entertaining fight. Probably one of the better fights on the card. That Dylan White one was a good fight. Most of these fights were good fights. And then there was the main event. Now, let me tell you, I understand the fight. I understand that, you know, Anthony Joshua had to go in there with, well, Joshua needed that win. Regardless of whatever, he could not afford to lose. If Joshua would have lost that rematch against Andy Ruiz, I think the kid would have never bounced back, to be honest. You know what I mean? His confidence would have just been shaken. But, you know, leading into this fight, there was just so many things that you heard going, extenuating from the last fight in New York, right? We heard things that, like, Joshua got dropped during training from a big dude from Philly. So he was concussed kind of going into that fight. We also heard things that, like, Joshua was not, you know what I mean? He was just not right. You know what I mean? Like, he was not right in the head to get out there on the ring. We heard rumors of that. I mean, is any of this true? Who knows, right? There's just whispers around the industry, right? So you never know with these things. But what I know coming into this second round is that, or the second fight, I should say, is that Joshua ended up losing some of that muscle, which I think is good because, let's be honest, folks, when you're that big and that huge, I mean, like, all those muscles, they look great and everything, you know what I mean? But those muscles will also hurt you in a fight, right? The bigger your muscles are, the more oxygen you need to feed those muscles, right? So it was nice to see Joshua trimmed down a little bit. I think the reports were saying that he dropped 11 pounds, right? Which is a lot. You could see it on his frame, right? And apparently after his loss to Andy Ruiz, he had received a phone call from Klitschko, right? And Klitschko told him, you focus too much on this fucking cross-training shit. You're a boxer, fucking box, right? Get in the gym and box. And that's all that Anthony Joshua did. He went back to the gym and boxed. And you could kind of tell that he took this advice from Klitschko pretty serious, and he took it to heart because, let me be honest, during this fight, he looked like it was a Klitschko in the ring, you know what I mean? Stuck on the outside of Ruiz. Ruiz was the smaller fighter, and, he kind of stuck to the game plan that he should have had in the first fight, you could definitely tell that Ruiz was definitely enjoying that good life. There was rumors coming out of his camp that his trainers wanted him in the gym in August. He showed up in September, so that's like 2 months of training lost. They said Joshua was in the ring in fucking July, right? So, like, the dude was motivated to get his crown back, and I understand that, like, your life got changed and this and that, right? But you got to have that hunger, They say the easiest thing is winning a championship. The hardest thing is defending that motherfucker, right? So there was a bit of that to see. Ruiz also came in something like 16 pounds heavier from the last fight, right? So, kind of didn't help with his conditioning, especially with Joshua coming in. And, like, Ruiz's camp should have known that they were going to fight a completely different Joshua, right? Even when Joshua would hurt Ruiz during this fight, he would always back out, right? At no point did Joshua want to actually sit there and trade with the man because you know what? You could definitely tell Joshua respected the power of Ruiz. Was not willing to stay in that pocket and trade paint with him. A couple of times Ruiz landed some nasty big shots on him, but Joshua always got out. And at the end of the day, it made for a very fucking boring and unentertaining fight. But he fought a smart fight. He did what he was supposed to. He got them titles back. And now, maybe we're going to see something big coming into the future here, Like, we've got Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder in February here. So, hopefully, we can get a unification title, Like, I want to see whoever the winner is between Wilder and Fury 2. I want to see the winner of that fight Joshua. Let's get these titles unified and fucking one face as the heavyweight champion. That's what we're pushing for. Let's hope it gets done. All right, well, that's it, folks. If you guys like the show, drop me a like. If you guys have any comments, please leave them below. Let me know what you guys thought about these fights. And until next week, we'll try and do a little bit better and get more of these shows up and going. All right, y'all. Thank y'all for watching. And see you around. Peace.